Okay, so are you ready to blast off? Because today we're going to do a deep dive into India's space program.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, the articles you sent are absolutely stellar. No pun intended.
Right.
We're talking moon landings, a Mars mission that costs less than some Hollywood blockbusters, and even plans for a space station.
Wow.
It's clear India is not just reaching for the stars, they're aiming for the moon Mars, even Venus.
Yeah. It's amazing how India has really taken their space program and used it to kind of show off their awesome science and technology.
Uh-huh.
And they've used it strategically, for their own national development and to boost their image around the world.
Yeah.
They're proving that space exploration isn't just about science. It's a powerful tool to help a country grow and become more influential.
So, to start things off, let's rewind a bit.
Okay.
We're talking about India going from launching its first sounding rocket way back in the 1960s to becoming a major player on the global space stage.
Yeah.
What were some of those key turning points that really put them on the map?
Well, one of the early game changers was when they established the Indian Space Research Organization,
Okay.
ISRO, in 1969.
Okay.
That showed everyone that India was serious about developing their own space capabilities.
Mhm.
And they weren't just trying to catch up. They focused on creating technologies that addressed their specific needs and challenges.
That focus on self-reliance has definitely paid off.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, look at their Chandrayaan missions, especially that incredible landing near the moon's south pole with Chandrayaan-3.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just a giant leap for India, it's a giant leap for space exploration as a whole, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Chandrayaan-1, finding water molecules on the moon back in 2008, was already a big deal.
Right.
But Chandrayaan-3 landing near the South Pole, that's something else.
Yeah.
This area is like a treasure chest of potential resources,
Yeah.
especially water ice, which could be super important for future lunar missions and maybe even settlements.
Okay, so let's break down why this South Pole landing is such a big deal. We know water ice is important, but what makes this specific location so strategically valuable?
Think of it this way. Water ice on the moon isn't just for thirsty astronauts.
Okay.
It can be split into hydrogen and oxygen,
Right.
which you need for rocket fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So a lunar base near water ice could turn into a refueling station for missions further into space, making those missions way cheaper and less complicated.
It's like discovering a gold mine on the moon. But instead of gold, it's rocket fuel.
Yeah. Exactly.
And India, being the first to land there, has a real advantage in the race to use these resources.
Absolutely. It puts them in a prime position to contribute to and potentially lead future lunar missions.
Now, we can't talk about India's space program without mentioning their Mars mission, Mangalyaan.
Right.
I mean, reaching Mars on their first try and on a budget that was what? Less than the cost of a Hollywood superhero movie? That's mind-blowing.
I know, it's crazy, right?
What's the secret sauce behind that incredible feat?
Their secret weapon is frugal engineering.
Frugal engineering.
It's all about achieving big goals with limited resources. They use ingenuity and clever problem solving.
Correct.
For Mangalyaan, they used a smaller, lighter spacecraft.
Hmm.
And they cleverly used Earth's gravity to slingshot the probe toward Mars, saving a bunch of fuel and money.
So it's not just about spending a ton of money, it's about thinking creatively and finding innovative solutions. That's something we can apply to so many other things, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It shows how powerful human ingenuity and determination can be.
Mm-hmm.
This approach seems to be a big part of ISRO's identity.
Yeah.
Look at their Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, the PSLV.
Yeah.
It's known for being reliable and affordable, making India a go-to partner for launching satellites.
Right.
They even hold the world record for launching 104 satellites in a single mission.
The PSLV has been a workhorse for ISRO. It launches not only Indian satellites, but also satellites for many other countries.
Wow.
This success has made India a major player in the commercial space sector, attracting clients from around the world and helping a whole bunch of private space companies grow within India.
So it's like a win-win. They're making money, building a reputation for reliability, and opening up space exploration to more players.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
great example of how a space program can benefit a whole country and even the world.
This commercial success is definitely giving them momentum for those ambitious plans we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
So what's next on the agenda?
Yeah.
What are some of the big, audacious goals they're setting their sights on?
They're not slowing down anytime soon. In
Yeah.
fact, they're actually ramping up their ambitions.
Okay.
We're talking missions to Venus with the Shukran probe,
Oh, yeah.
further lunar exploration. And get
Mm.
this, they're planning to build their own space station.
Whoa, hold on. A space station.
Yeah.
By when?
By 2030.
That's amazing. That's a whole other level.
I know, right?
What are like the main objectives for that project, and how does it fit into their bigger vision for space exploration?
The Indian Space Station is meant to be a platform for doing microgravity research, Earth observation,
Yeah.
and maybe even acting as like a hub for future lunar missions.
Wow.
It's a symbol of India's growing independence in space and their commitment to becoming a major player in long-duration human spaceflight.
And let's not forget their ambitions to contribute to human settlements on the moon and Mars.
Right.
That's a pretty, like, audacious goal, wouldn't you say?
It's definitely a long-term vision, but they're taking real steps in that direction.
Okay.
They're developing important technologies like advanced propulsion systems, life support systems, and even robotics for extraterrestrial construction.
Wow.
These are all essential building blocks for establishing a sustainable human presence beyond Earth.
It's clear they've got this, like, grand vision for the future. But you
Yeah.
gotta wonder, what are some of the hurdles they need to clear to actually turn these ambitious plans into reality?
Well, as with any big endeavor, there are challenges.
Sure.
Getting enough funding to keep up with giants like the US and China is a major one.
Mm-hmm.
Space exploration needs a lot of investment, and India will need to prioritize and be smart about how they spend their money to achieve their goals.
But, like, given their track record of doing more with less, do you think they can still make big progress even with limited resources?
I think their dedication to frugal engineering gives them a real edge.
Okay.
They've consistently shown they can achieve impressive results without spending a fortune.
Right.
And remember, the commercial success of programs like the PSLV is bringing in money that can be reinvested into these ambitious projects.
That makes sense. So it's about finding that balance between ambition and being practical.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing being strategic and making the most of every rupee they invest in space exploration.
Okay, now beyond the financial stuff, what about the technology side? Are there any specific areas where India needs to catch up to really compete on the global stage?
One area they're working hard to improve on is reusable rockets.
Okay.
SpaceX has shown how much money this technology can save, and it's something ISRO is investing a lot in.
Hmm.
Mastering reusable rockets would be a huge game changer for India. It would make getting to space much cheaper.
And I imagine that would also have like a domino effect, right? Making it more affordable to launch satellites, do research, and pursue those big lunar and Martian missions.
Exactly. It would open up so many more possibilities.
Now we can't talk about space exploration these days without thinking about the geopolitical situation.
Right.
It's not just about science anymore. It's tied up with global politics and economic interests.
Yeah.
So how is India handling this complex landscape?
India's taking a strategic approach.
Yeah.
They're balancing international collaboration with developing their own independent capabilities.
Okay.
They're forming partnerships with countries that share their vision, while also working on technologies that ensure they don't have to rely on others for the important stuff.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between working together and competing.
Exactly. And they do a great job of it.
Now, you mentioned earlier that India wants to have a more permanent presence in space with a space station and even possible settlements on the moon and Mars.
Yeah.
That brings up some pretty big questions, doesn't it? Questions that go beyond just the technical challenges.
It definitely does.
Mhm.
As we go further into space, we're entering uncharted territory. Not just geographically, but also ethically and legally.
Okay.
Who owns the resources on the moon or Mars? How do we make sure we protect the environment in these fragile places? What are the rules if there's a conflict in space?
Those are some heavy questions.
They are.
Yeah.
And these are questions that all of humanity is trying to figure out right now.
Yeah.
And India, as a rising space power, will have a say in finding the answers.
So in a way, India's space program isn't just about pushing the boundaries of technology. It's about making us think differently about our place in the universe and how we behave out there.
It's about understanding that space isn't just a frontier to conquer, but a shared resource that we need to take care of.
It's amazing to see how far India has come since those early days of launching sounding rockets.
Yeah.
They've really come a long way and are making their mark on the cosmos. But before we jump into their human spaceflight ambitions with the Gaganyaan mission, I'd love to get your thoughts on one more thing.
Okay.
You mentioned before that space exploration forces us to face our limitations. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. Space is a tough environment. It demands that we push the limits of engineering physics and how much humans can endure.
Right.
And when we do that, we run into our own limits. We're reminded that we're not invincible, that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
So it's a humbling experience even as we accomplish these amazing feats of exploration.
Absolutely. It makes us face our vulnerabilities, our reliance on technology, and our responsibility to use our knowledge and abilities wisely.
But even though we're tiny in the grand scheme of things, we have this incredible drive to explore, to understand, to reach out beyond our own planet.
Right.
What is it about space that captures our imagination so strongly?
It's the ultimate unknown, the final frontier. It's a place of wonder, mystery, and endless possibilities. It challenges us to face our deepest fears and aspirations. It inspires us to dream big, to push the boundaries of what we think is possible.
And in a way, that's what makes India's space program so captivating. They're not just reaching for the stars, they're searching for a deeper understanding of ourselves and where we fit in the universe.
I like that. They're showing us that with hard work, cleverness, and a bold vision, we can do amazing things, not just in space, but here on Earth too.
And that leads us to probably the most exciting chapter in India's space journey, their human spaceflight program, Gaganyaan.
Oh, yeah.
You ready to delve into that?
Absolutely.
Let's talk Gaganyaan. Sending humans into space, that's a whole other challenge.
It really is.
What are the main goals of this mission? What makes Gaganyaan so special?
Well, the main goal of Gaganyaan is to show that India can launch humans into low Earth orbit on their own
Okay.
and bring them back to Earth safely. It's a really important step in building a strong human spaceflight program.
So it's about proving they can do it all themselves, joining that group of elite spacefaring nations.
Exactly. Only a few countries have managed to do this, and India wants to be one of them. It shows off their technological skills, their national pride, and it tells the world that their space ambitions are growing.
I bet it's super inspiring for young people in India, seeing their country aiming for such big goals.
Okay.
So what does the mission actually look like? How many astronauts are we talking about, and what will they be doing up there?
The plan is to send 3 Indian astronauts into orbit for about a week.
Okay.
They're actually called Vyomanauts, which comes from the Sanskrit word Vyoma, meaning space or sky.
Vyomanauts. I love that. So what will these Vyomanauts be up to during their 7 days in space?
A lot. They'll be running all sorts of experiments, studying how microgravity affects the body, looking at Earth from space, and testing out new technologies.
It must be incredible to see our planet from that perspective, like a whole new point of view.
Imagine looking down at the clouds, swirling around the vast oceans, and the continents laid out like a map. It's a truly amazing experience.
This mission feels like it marks a change in the global picture of space exploration. For a long time, human spaceflight was mostly done by just a few superpowers, but now more and more countries are getting involved. What are your thoughts on that?
It's exciting. Space is becoming more accessible, giving more countries the chance to help out with and benefit from space exploration.
Yeah.
And each country brings its own unique perspective and skills to the table.
India seems to be taking a collaborative approach. We talked before about their partnerships with other nations.
Yeah, and that's a big part of their plan. They're working with countries like France, Japan, and Russia on different parts of the Gaganyaan mission, sharing what they know and learning from each other.
So it's not just about competing, it's about everyone working together to push the limits of what humans can do in space.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that space exploration is a global thing, something that benefits all of humanity. And India is doing a lot to encourage that spirit of collaboration.
We've covered so much in this deep dive, from humble beginnings to ambitious goals, from frugal engineering to working with other countries. India's space program is really something else. As we wrap up this episode, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from all this?
I want them to remember that space exploration isn't just about rockets and satellites. It's about pushing the limits of human creativity, encouraging global cooperation, and inspiring the next generation to dream big.
Well said. It reminds us that the sky's not the limit when there are footprints on the moon. So thanks for joining us on this amazing journey through India's space program. We hope you found it as awe-inspiring as we did. Until next time, keep looking up and keep exploring.